I am Eve Minax, and welcome to my parlor. Today's guest is Barbara Carellas. She is a Tantrika, a published author, and I would say that she's also an erotic transcendentalist.
A new title, I love that.
Barbara has coined a term. Let me go ahead and just explain to the people out there. Urban Tantra, which maybe you would describe for us. Why don't you describe how you would, if somebody asks you, what is Urban Tantra, how would you talk about that?
The subtitle actually is kind of defines it. It's sacred sex for the 21st century. I wanted a brand of sacred sex, a way of practicing sacred sex that was really, really accessible to everybody. Mm-hmm. A lot of people felt shut out of Tantra. Well, actually, let me define Tantra or qualify Tantra for a moment. Mm-hmm. I think what we're all practicing, all of us who say we're doing Tantra, we're all doing Neo-Tantra. Mm-hmm. So I decided to write a version of Tantra, a way of doing Tantra, a way to approach Tantra that was all gender inclusive, including transgender inclusive, that was queer inclusive, that was BDSM inclusive. Where we meet is that our interest in BDSM and Tantra and the places where those come together.
Mm-hmm. I was just thinking about that.
You're one of there are getting to be more people who understand that there is not that rigid separation.
Yeah, which used to be very common.
Here and here.
Yeah.
But Tantra is the perfect bridge because Tantra doesn't believe in duality, doesn't believe in binaries. It's all one. So in reality, it's more like if this were a piece of piercing jewelry with two little balls on either end, and you bent it into a curved barbell, SM and Tantra would be more like here. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Because they're both such conscious practices, and in the case of SM, have to be.
Mm-hmm. Pain can be defined as extreme sensation.
Exactly.
And you can have that psychologically or psychically or physically, or that manifestation can be all three simultaneously, which could be quite painful, but then it can take you to that ecstatic space.
Right where I was going to go.
Right.
Ecstasy. Ecstasy is not, la la, isn't this pleasant? It's just not.
Right.
Ecstasy is intense. Ecstasy can be cathartic.
Mm-hmm.
Ecstasy can change in a heartbeat. It can start as a wild, I call them laughgasms, gigglegasms. It can transition into the most intense crygasm you've ever had. It can then move on to a screaming angergasm and then go back to a gigglegasm. Mm-hmm. And some of the places in that ride could be considered painful, but instead are interpreted by the psyche as an intense, exhilarating ride.
Right.
Speaking of the top-bottom thing, when you get that sort of energetic ride going, the bottom, if you will, the receptive person, is like the magic carpet. And the top or active person can just kind of, with consent and agreement, jump on to that magic carpet once it's flying and go for the same ride. Connected. And that's the place. People talk about connection in sex in ways that can frustrate me. I love to ask these days is, why do you do sex? Why do you do sex? What do you get out of it? What's the number one reason you do sex? And I'm speaking to the connection point.
Yeah.
If my number one reason for doing sex, and it is my number one reason for doing sex, is the cosmic journey, the flying through the universe, the altered states of consciousness, meeting God, Goddess, all that is in their private chamber. That is my number one reason for doing sex. And I'm engaged in a sexual encounter with someone whose number one reason for having sex is romantic connection. We need to talk about how to do connection.
How to find that space.
How to find the space where we can meet.
Yeah. Barbara, it's been an absolute wonderful, amazing pleasure. You are just as ecstatic as always. And I would say an erotic transcendentalist indeed.
Thank you so much.
I want to just kiss your hand.
Mwah.
I love you.
Mwah.
Okay, thanks.